Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Mohammed Hussain Qazi, and these are today's headlines from the past. On this day, the 22nd of November, before formally beginning with the headlines of the day, we mark the feast day of Cecilia, the patron saint of musicians, singers, and poets. Truly an interesting commemoration and a significant date in the history of patronage of musicians and singers and poets. Now we begin with today's headlines of the day. On this day in 1497, Portuguese navigator Vasco da Gama rounded the Cape of Good Hope in his search for a route to India. Vasco da Gama would be successful in landing in India and would therefore be one of the first explorers from the Western Hemisphere to reach India. Moving forward, on this day in 1830, container transport was introduced by Pickfords by agreement with the Liverpool and Manchester Railway Company. Truly, this would be a significant moment in the history of packaged and canned goods, which has become an all too common sight today. And continuing on this date, in 1927, the first performance of George Gershwin's Funny Face, starring Fred and Adele Astaire in New York with the song It's Wonderful, took place. Funny Face would later be directed as a film in the 1950s, starring Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn and Keir Thompson, in which the song Funny Face was performed once again, with Audrey Hepburn as the actor and Fred Astaire as the main singer. So truly, this remains to be an interesting date in the history of musicals. Moving forward, on this day in 1963, unfortunately, John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated as he was driven in an open car on his official visit to Dallas, Texas. His assailant was Lee Harvey Oswald, and he was charged with killing, and a charge still overflowing with controversy. This would be one of the most unfortunate dates in the history of American politics. The death of President Kennedy is mourned to this day by hundreds of Americans who look back on the Kennedy administration with fondness. And on this day in 1975, King Juan Carlos was sworn in as King of Spain following the death of Franco 2 days before. Truly, this would be the end of an era of dictatorship in Spain, after which the monarchy would return to its position of power in Spain. And on that note, we conclude today's headlines of the day. And now we move on to the next segment of our show where we recount the famous births and deaths of famous figures from the 19th and 20th centuries and sometimes earlier. Born on this day in 1890, the 22nd of November 1890, was Charles de Gaulle, one of the most iconic leaders of wartime France, that is to say, the Second World War wartime Free France, not to be confused with Vichy France, which was under the rule of Nazi Germany at the time. Charles de Gaulle is therefore the founder of the Fourth French Republic and has remained to be an interesting and controversial figure in French history to this day. For while he is remembered as a revolutionary, his politics did not fare so much, or well, did not fare so well with the people of France as he reigned on as president. Nevertheless, he is still recognized as an iconic figure in the history of French politics. He was born on this day, the 22nd of November 1890. And on this day, in 1718, Edward Teach, English pirate who sailed under the name of Blackbeard, is rumored to have been killed off the coast of North Carolina on this day, the 22nd of November 1718. Blackbeard remains to be one of the most famous names in the world of pirating and theft. And alongside him, in 1774, Robert Clive, English administrator of colonial rule in India, who avenged the deaths of the Black Hole of Calcutta and was known for expanding British control over the subcontinent, died from an overdose of opium. He is remembered as one of the first colonials to rule, English colonials to have expanded the empire in India to this day by historians. And on that note, we conclude today's headlines of the day. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi. And these are today's headlines as history first heard them. Good night.